Okay team, welcome to ISTQB Foundation Level Certification Training Day 3. Just a quick overview of today's agenda, what we have covered and what we would be covering. So we are just dealing with the fundamentals of testing, that is the chapter 1. And we also have talked about what is testing, why is testing necessary and what is testing, and principles of testing. And also we have covered half of fundamental test process. So today we will wrap up chapter 1. We will cover all the topics, the remaining topics of fundamental test process, followed by the psychology of testing and the code of ethics. So and then as usual we will have the mock test. I think this part is very inviting and a different type of training, so this keeps people very excited, and we have got a lot of good feedback, great feedback about the mock test that is conducted at the end of the session. Thanks a lot team. Let's get started with today's session. Alright team, we have been talking about the fundamental test process. So the fundamental test process, we have already seen what is planning and control consists of, test analysis and design consists of. We also have talked about implementation and execution techniques. Today we will talk about evaluating exit criteria and reporting, followed by test closure activities. Before that, I would like to go through a quick recap of the following things that we have covered. In the test planning, what we usually do in planning, the scope, risk, and the terminologies used in test planning and control is the different types of document, policy, test strategy, test approach, coverage, exit criteria is specified during the planning stage. So this is one of the things you have to note it. It is not a separate state. It is exit criteria is mentioned or it is captured at the planning stage itself. What would be the entry and exit criteria? And then we also have talked about analysis and design. Analysis and design, what exactly we would be doing in analysis and design, and terminologies to understand the condition, test case, design specification, test data, and so on. The implementation and execution is the actual testing phase, where we carry out our testing, regression testing, retesting, actual testing by executing the code that has been developed by the developers. Fine. Here we have also got terminology such as test suite, execution, test log, and incident. So this was the closing session that we had during day 2. Now today we will talk about evaluating exit criteria and reporting. This is today's topic. We have to deal with it, and we will also ensure that we will cover up all the other topics related to chapter 1. Great team. If you have got any questions, please put it in the chat. Whenever we can, whenever we have the logical breaks between each one of the topics, we will address it. Fine. So evaluating exit criteria. We know that exit criteria is defined during the planning phase. We have seen that exit criteria and the entry criteria are defined during the planning phase and before the test execution started. We will not define it during the exit criteria, that this will be the exit criteria. No. That is one of the key points that you should definitely understand. Exit criteria are mentioned or captured during the planning phase. So at the end of execution, what we do, we take a stake of things. Usually the test manager or the lead take stake of things, where we stand, have we met our exit criteria or not. If not, let's say that code coverage should be 95%. Okay, but we have just executed only 75% of our code. Code coverage is just 75%. So if required, we can revise our exit criteria. Okay, based on the timelines or the risk involved, we can redefine or else rephrase our exit criteria. So what do we do at this stage? Check whether whatever we have proposed in the exit criteria have been met or not, and followed by if more tests are needed or if specific exit criteria needs amending. This is what I was talking about. assume that the code coverage itself you want to achieve as per your initial exit criteria is 90%. But what we could achieve at the end of testing is just 75%. Now, as a lead or as a manager, we need to decide how much testing is required, how many more tests to achieve that criteria, or shall we re-specify our exit criteria, in the sense amend our exit criteria. Fine. And then writing up the result of testing activities for the business sponsors and stakeholders, in the sense we are also writing up the result of testing in this exit criteria. That is what we call it as reporting. Reporting happens while we also finish or we decide that our exit criteria is met. Great. So now the next thing that we need to understand or in the flow is that test closure activities. What comprises of test closure activities? Testing is completed at this stage, in the sense test closure, this is the stage we will start once testing is done, and concentrate on making sure that everything is done. For example, reports, defects should have been closed, and those defects that are deferred to other phase is clearly seen or clearly stated as it has been deferred for the next release or the next iteration, be it anything. So test closure should concentrate on the finalization of your testing activities. In that phase, we will not be doing the testing. In this phase, we will not be doing the testing. When we enter into this phase, it means that testing is completed. We will just talk about the reports. If we have any open defects, or what about the closed defects? If we have any open defects, it should be marked as deferred in case if it has been deferred. Right. So the test closure stage will have all these following: ensuring this documentation is done, and closing down and archiving the test environment. So this we usually do for our future reference, test environment, infrastructure and testware. So for example, if you are releasing product version 1.0, you are done with it. Next version is 2.0. So from you would have done the closure report for 1.0, you will start with 2.0 and you will continue on. When we are done with 2.0 reporting and all, we will trash all these things like test environments, infrastructure and testware used for the previous version, because it's no longer making sense to maintain everything. Right? That's how we usually do, because it's a space constraint. So pass over the testware to the maintenance team. So testware in the sense your software, piece of software that you test. That is what we call it as testware. And finally, the lessons learned. This is the most important factor. The retrospection, what went fine, what didn't go well, and what is your learning. How to improve the process or improve your testing methodologies. Be it you can bring in automation, you can bring in performance, or you bring in some other approaches to meet the exit criteria. Alright, here the lessons learned is what we call it as retrospection, very important during the closure activities. Great. So very simple topics that we have covered so far, and this completes the test process. Right. Now we will check our understanding. What are the stages in the fundamental test process? What are the stages? It starts with the planning and control phase, followed by design and analysis and design, implementation and execution, exit criteria evaluating, and then reporting, and also test closure activities. Please ensure that you remember this in order. Remembering is what type of question, I think you all know that. So such kind of questions keep coming up during the examination. So when should the expected outcome of a test be defined? When we should define the expected outcome of a test? We design, so when we do that during the design phase. So what do we do in that exit criteria and test closure activities? So what we do in the exit criteria, we define our, we see whatever we have done is correct or not, have been met. If not met, then we will amend it, or we will put more efforts in testing, and also we will do the reporting activity. Fine, and in test closure activities, again, we will do the retrospection. we will do the documentation and then archiving of test results, infrastructure, and also the software is passed on to the maintenance team. And most importantly, we will note down our lessons learned. Fine team, any questions so far? Because two very simple and straightforward topics. Any questions? Great. Let's keep going. The next topic is of type K2, the psychology of testing. So today's topics are very, very interesting and also very easy, pretty straightforward. These are all just the key concepts. So just we need to understand by looking at the keywords. That's it. So what should be one's psychology? What should be the psychology of a tester in particular? Okay. First thing that we need to understand is that we always know that developer writes piece of code and testers test it. Let's see an hypothetical situation where developer develops it and developer himself testing it. Developer, of course, they have to do this unit testing, but apart from that, if they are involved in testing completely without testers, okay, because development phase they do the coding and then testing phase somebody will test it. Assume that the development team themselves are testing it. They will be little biased in their testing, in the sense you will not be in a position to identify problems in your own code. First is that you will be biased in your testing approach. Okay, this will not have any problems. Assume that this may not be having any problems, something like that. So what we need to do is that in any organization, for testing to be more effective, it should not be undertaken by the people who write the code. So people who write the code should do only unit testing part. What the testing team should do is that complete integration, system testing, performance, security, automation, whatever we call this. So when it will be more effective, when they are not given back to developers for testing. Okay, and what would be the order of independence? This question keeps coming up, team. I have seen various ISTQB examinations. So people feedback that we have got. So this question keeps coming in. What is the increasing order of independence? For example, if developers write the piece of code and they themselves test it, it is not independent, because we are trying to, the developers are trying to test their own piece of code, which would be kind of a biased approach. Okay, we are trying to make it independent. So what is the increasing independence? If we test the piece of code, if the software is tested by the developers itself, it is not of great independence. Okay. Then the next is that members of the same development team, it is of little bit independent. Yeah, because the person who is testing it is part of dev team, but he is not the person who has written the code. That's fine. Next is the members of a different group, that is independent testing team, whom we call it as testers. This is little bit of greater independence, I would say, but the most independence is is achieved when we are giving it to the different organization itself to test. For example, you outsource it to a different company or to a consultancy. They test it. So this will have an increasing the most independent methodology or the psychology in testing. So what happens, or what is the dependency here? Independence proportional to price. So assume that you have got a developer in your team and you are asking them to test. It comes at a very cheap cost, right? Because you are not employing any additional resources for testing. Same development team, again, you are not deploying any additional team member. This is again cheap. But if you talk about independent testing team, you need to bring in the people, we need to pay for them. It means that it is increasing your price. And also, if it is different company outsourcing, you can achieve it only if you have got a larger pool of money. In the sense, independence is proportional to money. Greater the independence, more the money you need to shell out for doing a testing. Great. Now, the most important thing that we need to know, this is what we need to know as the most important aspect of a tester. Alright, the first thing is how to communicate. You got a defect. You have got a defect, you have written the test case, the actual result is not meeting with your expected result. There is a problem that you have identified. So how to raise a defect? Now in this particular context we will talk about how to raise a defect, what you need to do while logging a defect, and what you need not do or what you should not do as a tester. Alright, first thing is everyone is prone to mistakes. Everyone, including testers, developers, BA, or all the human beings are prone to errors. Right? First thing that we need to understand that everyone might make mistakes, or I would call it as will make mistakes at one point of time. Everyone is not perfect. Fine. So the defects, whatever we raise, should be raised against the software, but not against the individual who made the mistakes. For example, let's say that Jim is working in your team, and you are addressing Jim, whatever you have done is wrong, you have to rectify. No, you should not do that. You should actually tell what is your expected behavior, what is your actual behavior. As per the specification, it is expected to behave so and so, but it is not behaving this way. Please address, or please verify. Something like this is what you need to put forth. Alright, it should not be raised against the software. Sorry, it should not be raised against the individual, but it should be raised against the software. Communication is the key. So what we need to do, don't gloat. In the sense, don't pinpoint. Don't blame, and be constructive in your defect logging mechanism. Be very, very constructive approach. In the sense, what has went wrong, that is what we need to talk about, nothing else. Okay, here we are talking about the psychology of testing. So these aspects are very, very important. And next is explaining that by knowing about this, we can have a workaround or fix. You can propose a fix, or you can propose a solution also, if you think of yourselves in the developer's shoes. You put yourselves in developer's shoes, and if you can think of solution, you can propose a solution or workaround for it as well. So what we can quote is that what is working fine and what is not working fine, and also we should definitely tell this point. What is the risk? If it is high priority, or don't tell everything is high priority. Never, it cannot be. We should definitely have that. It's not that we need to show that I have raised 25 high critical bugs. No, it doesn't work that way. Critical, you should raise it only if it is critical. We need to be very honest, and not everything is priority. Fine. And don't just see the pessimistic side of it. So we need to understand the positive side, as well as we need to tell honestly what is the risk involved and how to uncover it, and benefits of the review or this test. Great. And the final thing is that what is our common goal is to achieve or to deliver a better quality system. So we need to be polite, helpful, and collaborate with our colleagues, understand other person's feelings and why they react as they do, and also confirm the other person has understood and what you have said. That is most important. So what we are communicating, the other person has to understand. So these are all the level of communication we are talking about as in the psychology perspective of a tester. And offer your work to be reviewed. So even we might make mistakes, so someone else, for example, if you are addressing one module in this release, in the next release someone else will be addressing that module, so that other person can find defects. A different kind of testing some person might approach. Then explain how the test or review helps. So definitely reviewing always helps. People are there to give constructive feedback, not to blame. So what is the final goal? What we are understanding by this here is that as a developer and tester, whoever it is, our common goal is to deliver a better quality system in a timely and a cost-effective manner. Whatever the cost that we have promised, and also in a timely manner, is our goal. We should not deviate from goal and start blaming the dev team or start blaming each one of them. Pinpointing is strictly no. Fine. These are all kind of ethics or I would call it as a psychology that we should follow for to be a successful tester. These are all also covered as a part of ISTQB so that you get a better understanding about how you need to work in real-time environment. Fine. Let's come back to the what is the recap. So when testing software, who has the highest level of independence? If you give it to the outsourcing team, or if someone else with the independent testing team is testing, the highest level of independence is achieved by outsourcing, or if some other company is doing the testing. All right. Contrast the advantages and disadvantages of developers testing their own code. Advantage is that they will not tell, probably they would be biased. That is a disadvantage. They would be biased. Advantage is that it is cheap because you are not deploying any additional resource, so it is cheap. And disadvantage, you will not get high risk defects unless otherwise you test it with the tester's perspective or testers in the hacker's perspective. You want to break the system. That would be the tester's perspective. Suggest 3 ways that confrontation can be avoided. So these are all the points that we have discussed. So don't blame, don't gloat, or be constructive in your approach, and all those things that we have been seeing. Be polite. So we can see all these things in a bullet points, which you can definitely go through it. Right? Fine, team. Any questions so far? Please put it in the chat. I'll be able to address it straight away. Any questions so far? These are all very little theoretical, but very straightforward topics. Fine, team. Let's move on to the last topic for today's session, the code of ethics. Okay. So far we have seen, what we have seen is that how you need to work in a real-time environment, right? What is it in the sense like what we should be ideally doing and what we should not be doing. Great. Now comes the code of ethics. How you need to approach your how you need to handle things in a professional manner. The things that you should definitely consider while you are at work. Great. So this is the list of things that we should definitely consider if you, as a tester, what you should do. The thing is that you will have access to many confidential information if you are working for a banking project or a government project, right? We should not be the test, or it can be associated with a problem, or it can be associated with respect to the security front. You might know probably the in and out of the system because you are a tester. You will have a better picture than developers because developers are narrowed down to only their module. But as a tester, you will have a big picture approach and you will have a complete understanding of the system. Alright, so with that keeping in mind, you should handle things in a very professional manner. You should not leak out any confidential information, or you should not take the test data or take the software, release it before the actual release, or you do some kind of things which are unprofessional, or it's not considered as a professional with the code of ethics of a tester. Great. Now these are all the things that we need to do. So like how it affects the public, how it affects the client and employer, what is that applies for a product, what it applies for a judgment, what it applies for a management, what is that for your profession and colleagues and for yourself. So this is a kind of memorizing type of a question that you might get. So what each one and what a tester should abide by. So for example, public, for a public, what is that? So software testers shall consider the wider public interest in their actions. So for a client and employer, what they should do, shall act in best interest of their client and employer, being the consistent with wider public interest. So team, please go through this. I will just give you a couple of minutes with this screen. So this is a memorizing type of question. So you need to memorize it. And then I will take up questions probably in next couple of minutes. Okay, please go through this. If you have got any questions, we will address. Alright team, I hope you would have gone through this one. Please post if you have got any questions. It's a memorizing type of question. So it is pretty straightforward, like against each one of these, how a tester should follow or maintain his code of ethics. Right? Please post if you have got any questions with regards to the code of ethics. It's nothing but how a tester should act in a professional manner, nothing else. It can be with the product or with the client, or it can be with regards to a colleague or profession or self. So it can take any of these parameters. Fine. So you mean while reporting a duck there image? Sorry, I think you need to, we should not address to the retrospective dev. Sorry, I think you need to repost your question, right? Alright, fine. Any other questions, please post it here and we will just get into this question. This has appeared before in ISTQB. So just try to answer this question. So which statement now correctly describes the public and profession aspects of code of ethics? So which statement correctly describes the public and profession aspects of the code of ethics? So you can just see what has been given as the options, and based on your understanding, just a couple of minutes back you would have gone through it. Please try and answer this question. This is option A or 1, or this is option 2, this is option 3, and this is option 4. What is the right answer? Very simple. So team, what is the right answer for this one? I'll give one more minute. This question is a little big. You need to go through line by line carefully. Fine team, the answer for this question is option 4. So this is the answer. So public certified testers shall consider the wider public interest in their actions. As far as profession is considered, shall advance the integrity and reputation of their industry consistent with the public interest. So we can check it out here. What is there for public and what is there for profession. So both are talking just about public interest. You can see here, both are talking with regards to public interest. So this is how you need to actually learn or remember what each one of them having a dependence, or what each code of ethics states. Great. So the answer to this question is option 4. The rest of the options are not talking with regards to the public interest. Alright, great. Fine team, that's it for actually with regards to the chapter 1. Now what we need to do is that take up the mock test for today. So today's test will cover complete chapter 1. It may not be just from the area that we have discussed today. It may be from the chapters that we have discussed in day 1 and day 2 as well. Okay, it's not possible to give so many questions from the last half, what we have discussed today. So it might have questions from the other areas as well. Fine. So it's time for testing. So I will just launch the test. Before that, if you have got any questions, please post it in the channel. I will be able to address it. So this is the testing time. So it will just appear in a minute. So the test time would be 10 minutes. Try to answer all the questions and we will be able to address your questions at the end. Great team. So you will be able to see that the test launched in your screen at your end. Great. All the best. So team, please confirm if you are all able to see the screen, the test screen, test window. If you are all able to see the test window, the review screen. Great. All right. So the first question is, which aids the following are aids to good communication and which hinders it? So what way you should be communicating and what way it hinders. So you see this first option is try to understand how other person feels. And 3 is confirm the other person has understood what you have said and vice versa. And the fourth option is emphasize the common goal of better quality. So all these things we have seen in the session that it promotes, it aids, or it gives kind of constructive or positive approach between testers and developers. Whereas 2 and 5, 2 is communicate personal feelings, concentrating upon individuals, strictly no. And 5 is each discussion is a battle to be won. Definitely not. So it hinders. So it is, I feel it is a pretty straightforward question. Probably this 1, 2, 3, these combinations might have made you a little bit skeptical about the answers. So only 36% have got the answers correct. Now, which option is part of implementation and execution area of the fundamental test process? So which option? So implementation and execution. We are going to compare because this is the process wherein we are getting, this is the process area where we are actually performing the testing. That you execute the piece of code, what has been delivered to you, and then test it end to end. So you compare your actual and expected results. We are not going to develop tests here. We are not going to write the test summary, or we are not going to have a lessons learned. Lessons learned is the part of the final test closure procedure. Okay, fine. So which list of levels of tester independence is in correct order? This we have discussed, and also I given a hint that it's most frequently asked question. 64% still not bad. People who got it wrong, please ensure that you are putting it straightforward, in the sense most independent. Independent means not tied closely to you. So which would be the most independent level of testing? If that is been carried out by a different company, that would be the most level of independence, followed by tests designed by a different department within the company. It means that testers, we as a tester, independent testers, and then test designed by dev would be the least independent. So what we have asked, most independent first. So most independent first is the by different company. Alright, next. Unreachable code would be found using code reviews. So this is a part of static testing. We have seen what is static testing. So this has been dealt as with respect to what is static and dynamic testing, and what we do. What we do in static testing: code reviews, inspections, and walkthroughs. Right? But unreachable code can be found in code reviews only. Fine. Which of the following is not included in test plan document of the test document standard? So quality plans. So rest of the items such as test items, test environment, what is not to be tested, schedule and deadlines, everything is included in the plan. We don't have a quality plan. Quality plans in the sense, what would be the quality that we are going to achieve and all. Right? That we don't capture it in our test plan document. Fine. The next is the cost of fixing the fault. this is really fantastic team. 82% have got it correct. That's really amazing. So the session probably is making a lot of difference here. And then cost of the fixing the fault increases as we move the product towards the live use. Okay. Fine. What is visible to the end users is a deviation from the specific or expected behavior is called. I know that most of you would have chosen defect, because that is the keyword that we often have heard about it, isn't it? The rest all the things which we don't even use in testing terminology, right? We don't call it as an error, we don't call a fault, we don't call a failure, we don't call it as a mistake, but we usually call it as a defect. That is what is settled deeply in our mindset, that whatever the problem happens, we call it as a defect. But when it goes to the end user, it is not a defect, it is a failure. Please understand, the visible to the end user is a failure and it is not a defect. The defect that has been identified before it hits the production is a defect. And the problems that you caused by the human nature or incorrect human action is called error. Okay, so we have seen the diagram. I hope you all remember. Let me just one sec. I'll just show the screen. Are you this is the diagram that I was talking about. First session, the very first session. I hope you all remember. This is the one. An error leads to an error leads to defect, and defect leads to failure. Okay, so this point you should definitely understand. So whatever it hits at the end user's perspective, it's a failure, it's not a defect. Fine. During the software development process, at what point can the test process start? When the software requirements have been approved. It's definitely not during the code or design is complete. Fantastic. 73% have got it right. Now, we split testing into distinct stages primarily because each stage has a different purpose. A little disappointing to see only 55% have got it right, because this is our core area, like testing, process and stages. So it is easier, definitely it is not easier to manage in stages, because testing in stages is a different thing. It's not that because of that we have got all the test process into 2 or 3 different aspects. We can run different tests in different environments. Definitely not for this. This has no relation with the testing process. There are several stages in the testing process. The more stages we have, better the testing. Still, it's not answering your question. In the sense, if you have 20, if that is the case, they would have designed 20 stages. But just that we have got 5 stages. It means that each stage has got a different purpose. Fine. Static analysis is described as the analysis of program code. Okay. It is not analysis of a batch program. It is not reviewing your test plan. It is not the use of black box testing. It's the analysis of program code. And then this is, I really know that many of you will get it incorrect because of the options that I have given. So in the sense, this such kind of things is what you are going to get in ISTQB. This type of questions will really put you in back foot. 1 and 2, 1 and 2 only, 1, 2 and 3, 1 and 2, not 3. All these things will definitely confuse. Without this, even if you are trying to answer, I think you will answer it correctly. But with the option, it confuses us a lot. Okay, let's see what are those things. The purpose of exit criteria. This is the today's topic that we have discussed. What is the purpose of exit criteria? Define when to stop testing. End of the test level. When the test set of tests have achieved a specific precondition. So we have seen already that we would have designed or we would have defined our exit criteria during the planning phase, right? And with that, we will just check, take a stack of things and see if we have met or not. If we have not met, how much test we are going to execute more. I have given the example of a code coverage, right? Earlier in this session. If we cannot meet, can we revise or revamp our exit criteria? That's what we have discussed. right? So all the three options is correct answer. If you have chosen any of these, it's definitely not correct. So the next one and the last one for today is benefits of independent testing. Independent testers are much more qualified than developers. It's definitely not. See other and different defects and are unbiased. This is the most appropriate option because independent testers will always identify good defects, which is not true. There may be testers don't have a sufficient knowledge, will not be able to bring out good defects, right? Independent testers can test better than developers. Again, it is not correct because it's the way in which that we test, it doesn't depends on the person. And then independent testing costs less and adds more value. Definitely not correct because we have seen clearly that independent testing costs more as we make it more independent. If you want to outsource your testing, you need to shell out money, right? Independent testing costs more. The first part itself is wrong. And then it adds more value. Yes, it adds more value, but it is not going to cost less. So the correct option is to see other and different defects and are unbiased. Right, team. So with this, we will put a full stop for chapter 1. Starting tomorrow, we will be dealing with much more interesting topics on testing arena for the ISTQB certification syllabus. We will go through with that. The good thing is that we have done with the chapter 1. Now, you can find out there are a lot of tests that would be available on the portal ITeLearn.com. So you can just go through all those questions. You will be able to take an online test there, time it, and you will be able to answer them. You can see the answers, why it is correct, why it is not correct, on all those things. So you will have access to at least 12 to 14 tests. That's what we are planning for, and each test is going to add a lot of value and it's going to make a difference. So with regards to the feedback also, we have got something really great that this kind of approach works. People are able to learn. Thanks a lot. Please go through each one of those topics, and starting next session, I think it's all for premium members. Please do join us as premium members. Hopefully you will be able to win it hands down. That's for sure, we believe, because the approach that we are going to take, it's going to help every one of you. Alright team, if you have got any specific questions with regards to let's say the training, you go, please log on to ITeLearn.com. There is a sales ID or there is an ID wherein you can mail them and ask questions. Learn at ITeLearn.com with regards to the queries, with regards to the course. What is the timeline and all those things, it's all available already in the live trainings. Under live trainings, you can get into ISTQB. You can see the schedule also we have rolled out. And if you have got any specific questions to be answered with regards to what is the ISTQB, in the sense the certification questions, please go to tech support and then you can post your questions. Alright. Any other questions, team? If you have got any specific questions, please write an email and we will get back to you. Any other technical queries, I will be able to help you people out right now. Any other questions? Fine team, thanks a lot. Please post any questions with regards to course to learn at ITeLearn.com. Okay, and if you have got any questions with regards to tech support, put it in the tech support. Thanks a lot team, thanks a lot for joining. Hopefully we will meet up again for premium members session, and all the very best for your ISTQB. Have a nice day team, bye.